You thought having a queen versus a pawn was an automatic win, but this endgame can humble even the cockiest of players. And if you see that pawn creeping up the board, be careful. And remember, it's not just when the king is in front of the pawn that you might be able to advance your king forward. Also, you should be looking at pins when the pawn can't move because of the diagonal line that the queen is in, and then it would be an illegal move delivering a check. Here's the key thing. If you are able to check and the king goes in front of the pawn, then you can bring your king forward towards the pawn because the promotion square is being blocked off. This endgame can sometimes feel laborious, so always remember just to take your time and double check what your opponent can play next. You have to box the king out, and you see that the queen is moving forward towards the king, towards the pawn, because it has a lot more control, can deliver a lot more checks and a lot more pins. So moving the queen precisely towards the king and the pawn, just so that you have more control to stop that queening and more checks options to be delivered. Now, I've talked about pawns on the 7th, and you should always normally be able to slowly move your king forward to grab that pawn. But if it's an A pawn or an H pawn, the rook pawns, and I always like to name my pawns, so for today the A pawn Anaya and the H pawn Harry, if they're on, the rook pawns are there on the 7th rank, every time that the king moves in front of the pawn, then stalemate options are being threatened as well, which is a problem, and in those positions, usually a draw.
Swift chess, love, yeah, following